Good evening and welcome to CYC News for the 3rd of July 2016 and the 26th of Bauna 1732 AM. I'm David Nara. In today's headlines, Pope Francis decrees genocide in Armenia, Coptic Orthodox Pope Tawadros receives the UAE Minister of Tolerance, ISIS leadership was involved in the Istanbul attack, the US election poll shows Clinton extends a lead over Trump, leading Brexit campaigner Boris Johnson says he won't run for Prime Minister, and requests for abortions rise as the Zika spreads in Latin America. To our top Christian story, His Holiness Pope Francis recently visited Armenia, again describing the slaughter of Armenians by Ottoman Empire forces during World War I as a genocide, and prayed that such a tragedy never happen again. The Pope's remark using the word genocide came Friday during an address at the presidential place in Yerevan, the capital of the start of his 3-day trip to the country. Turkey is vehemently opposed to using that term to describe the Armenians' deaths, arguing that it was a war and there were losses on both sides. Pope Francis' reference to the Armenian killings as genocide is a political statement that reflects a crusader mentality. Turkey's Deputy Prime Minister, Nurettin Kanilki, said, according to state broadcaster TRT. He said the Pope's comment is not objective and does not reflect reality. We know this world knows this, the Armenians know this. Kanilki said last year a similar remark by the Pope was met with anger from Ankara. On Saturday, Pope Francis celebrated Mass in Gurmi, visited the Armenian Genocide Memorial Complex at Truskenbrad, and delivered an ecumenical prayer for peace. According to a Vatican press release, he called the genocide the first of deplorable series of catastrophes of the past century, made possible by twisted, radical, ideological or religious aims that darken the minds of tormentors, even to the point of planning the annihilation of entire peoples. Having seen the pernicious effects to which hatred, prejudice and the untrammeled desire for dominion led in the last century, I express my lively hope that humanity will learn from those tragic experiences the need to act with responsibility and wisdom to avoid the danger of such return to horrors. The Republic of Turkey, which came into being in 1923 after the Ottoman Empire fell last century, strongly denies that a genocide occurred, saying hundreds of thousands of Armenian Christians and Turkish Muslims died in intercommunal violence. It reacted angrily last year when the Pope quoted a remark by Pope John Paul II in 2001 that called the slaughter the first genocide of the 20th century. That remark was made at a Mass at St. Peter's Basilica to commemorate the 100th anniversary of the Armenian massacres. Turkey recalled its ambassador to the Vatican for about 10 months, and its foreign minister called the use of the word unacceptable. Pope Francis laid a wreath at the foot of the monument before a group of children who held banners bearing the names of the martyrs of 1915, the Vatican said, and he wrote in the visitor's book at the memorial, "Here I pray with pain in my heart that there be no more tragedies such as this, that humanity not forget and know how to conquer evil with good. May God grant peace and consolation to the beloved Armenian people and the whole world." Still in papacy news, on the 29th of June, the Coptic Orthodox Pope, His Holiness Pope Tawadros II, received UAE Minister of Tolerance, Sheikha Lubna, daughter of Khalid al-Khazmi, in the papal headquarters in St. Mark's Cathedral, Cairo, Egypt. The UAE Minister pointed out during the meeting that the purpose of the existence of the Tolerance Ministry is to promote the idea of tolerance in society and among the nations. The Pope stated that tolerance starts from a young age, in 3 steps: raising children with an open-mindedness, developing the expanded heart, and the spirit of modesty. It's worth mentioning that the UAE introduced 2 new ministers last February, one of happiness and the other of tolerance. Turkish officials have strong evidence that Istanbul airport attackers came to the country from the ISIS stronghold of Raqqa in Syria, and that ISIS leadership was involved in the planning of the attack, of a senior government source that told the CNN on Thursday. Officials have believed the men entered Turkey about a month ago from Raqqa, bringing along with them the suicide vests and bombs used in the attack, the source said. They rented an apartment in the Fatih district of Istanbul, where one of the attackers left behind his passport. The Turkish government, sources told CNN, as there was an attack was extremely well planned with ISIS leadership involved. The source said that the death toll rose Thursday to 43 when a 3-year-old Palestinian boy hurt in the attack died. According to Palestinian officials confirmed the boy's mother also died. While no one has yet claimed responsibility for the airport assault, CNN contributor Michael Weiss, author of ISIS Inside the Army of Terror, said the nationalities revealed Thursday buttressed the claim of ISIS involved. One of the toughest battalions in ISIS is called the Uzbek Battalion, he said. These were the guys who were essentially on the front lines, guarding Fallujah, the city they just lost in Iraq. Ask anybody inside ISIS or who fought ISIS, people from the former Soviet Union tend to be the most battle-hardened and willing to die, he said. CNN national security analyst Peter Bergen said the revelation of the Istanbul attackers' nationalities will serve to open people's eyes to the fact that there's a very substantial Russian, former Soviet Union presence within ISIS, both in terms of the foot soldiers and the leaders. Estimates of Russian fighters involved with ISIS range from 2,000 to 7,000. Kyrgyzstan's foreign minister disputed reports that one of the attackers was from that country. The ministry said that Turkish officials told its representatives that the identities of the suicide bombers are still being examined. The flight data recorded on doomed Egypt Air Flight 804 indicates possible lavatory and avionics smoke before the plane plummeted into the Mediterranean Sea, the nation's civil aviation ministry said on Wednesday. Additionally, wreckage from the Airbus A320's front section showed signs of high temperature damage and soot, the ministry said in a statement. What caused the plane carrying 56 passengers and 10 crew members to plunge to the sea on May 19 remains a mystery, but the latest information could bring investigators closer to determining a cause. We know now that there was some form of other smoldering or some form of fire or some form of combustion, if you like, on that plane, and that has been verified, CNN aviation analyst Richard Quest said. According to the department, the recorded data was consistent with information from the aircraft communications, addressing and reporting systems which sends messages between planes and ground facilities, indicating lavatory smoke and avionics smoke. Analysis will be carried out to try to identify the source and reason for those signs, the statement said. Evidence from the wreckage will enable investigators to build a forensic picture of what occurred. We will know whether this was a bomb or whether it was a fire, Quest said. The flight data is recorded holds 25 hours of technical information from plane sensors, including air speed, altitude, engine performance, and wing positions. The cockpit voice recorder captures the flight deck sounds, including crew conversation, alarms, and background noises. Authorities are still trying to repair the voice recorder's damaged memory chip at the French version of the US National Transportation Safety Board. The so-called black boxes offer the best clues to determining why the plane went down while en route from Paris to Cairo. This is an amazing development, taking us ever closer to learning what happened, Quest said of the new evidence. We can't say whether it was nefarious or mechanical. Washington has delivered high-level complaints to Moscow about accusations of increasing intimidation of American diplomats in Russia, the State Department said on Monday. Secretary of State John Kerry last discussed the matter with Russian President Vladimir Putin on March 24, according to State Department spokeswoman Elizabeth Trudeau. She told reporters at a press briefing, "We see an increase and we take it seriously." Trudeau said that harassment of diplomats by Russian security agents and traffic police had been an issue over the past 2 years, but did not detail any incidents nor why Kerry brought up the matter with Putin. Other Western embassies had reported the same behavior toward their diplomats stationed in Moscow, Trudeau added. Trudeau would not discuss specific incidents first reported by the Washington Post on Monday, including breaking into homes of embassy personnel and moving around contents. Hillary Clinton leads Donald Trump by 6 points, 44% to 38% in a Fox News poll of registered voters released on Wednesday, marking an uptick from similar polls released in May and June. The Fox News results show a rough patch for the Trump campaign. In May, the presumptive Republican nominee enjoyed a 3-point lead in the same survey, but early June, those numbers had flipped, with Clinton jumping out to a 42% to 39% advantage. CNN's polls, an average of result for the 5 most recent publicly released national polls that meets the CNN standard for publication, has Clinton leading Trump 46% to 40%. Her lead among women in this latest round, 51% to 32%, outpaces Trump's with the men, where his edge has dwindled to 10 points, 46% to 36%. The state of the race remains essentially unchanged when Libertarian Gary Johnson is thrown into the mix. Johnson wins 10% of the vote in a 3-way competition, talking about equally from Trump and Clinton, whose lead scales down to 41% to 36%. Despite having seen off his last primary rival nearly 8 weeks ago, Trump also lags behind Clinton on the party unity front. His leading among Republicans is down to 74% from 82% in May, and only 52% of registered GOP voters who had previously supported one of his opponents picked the billionaire businessman over Clinton. On the Democratic side, Bernie Sanders voters appear more willing to shed their primary loyalties and back the party's likely nominee. 2/3 of the Sanders backers surveyed said they would vote for Clinton over Trump. Overall, 83% of Democrats plan to support Clinton in November. The Fox News poll was conducted between the June 26th and 28th among 1,017 randomly chosen voters nationwide, and was a margin error of plus or minus 3 percentage points. Boris Johnson, one of the leading voices in the Brexit campaign and the man considered to be the favourite to replace outgoing Prime Minister David Cameron, delivered a bombshell Thursday when he announced he did not want the job. Living up to his reputation as a political maverick, the former London mayor outlined the demands of the role over a course of a lengthy speech in London, and then said, "Having consulted colleagues and in the view of the circumstances in Parliament, I have concluded that the person cannot be me." The charismatic Conservative MP played a decisive role in the campaign to lead Britain out of the European Union, an endeavour many saw as partly an effort to position himself as the future leader of the ruling Conservative Party and of the country. In Latin American countries where abortion is highly restricted, if not downright illegal, pregnant women are seeking abortions at significantly higher rates, a new study shows. This development comes in the aftermath of November alert about the Zika virus issued by the Pan American Health Organization. The alert revealed the potential for the virus to cause serious complications in unborn children, including microphthalmia, severe brain abnormalities, and eye and hearing defects. Some governments in turn issued health advisory warnings, including the suggestion that women simply avoid becoming pregnant. This move was unprecedented, said Dr. Catherine Aiken, one of the study's authors, to tell an entire country to simply not get pregnant while not providing access to options, including in many cases contraception, led her to others wonder what women were feeling and doing. "We were really not sure how women were going to respond to this health crisis," said Aiken, a lecturer in the Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology at the University of Cambridge. The one voice that was missing in the whole conversation was the women themselves. And to our final news bulletin, Argentina's Lionel Messi, considered by many to be the best player in the world, said he will likely retire from international soccer. The shock news came shortly after his side lost the Copa America final to Chile on penalties. "This is tough and a difficult time," Messi, the Argentinian team captain, said. "The first thing that comes to my mind and that I have thought is that the end has come for me and our team, Argentina." He referred to the 4 major competition finals he has played with Argentina, all of which he lost. And that's all for CYC News. A reminder that you can watch this news bulletin again throughout the week on YouTube. I'm David Nada, and from the CYC studios in Sydney, Australia, have a good night and God bless.